Yeah, I remember in stoppage time, Forest broke again, and this was at 7-0, and it didn't quite work out for him because it was Alanga who got in, and he was just sort of taking the piss with the Brighton defenders, taking the piss with the crowd, just going, "Oh yeah, this is easy, this football arc," and yeah, a lot of piss taking, I think, in the games this weekend.
Welcome back, everybody, to watch more football. Another week of Premier League fixtures to digest and go over and feel really sad about if you're me and Ryan. You're watching us on the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel, as always. Give us a like and subscribe if you like what you see. You know, it would really help us out. While you're on there, you can also check our main Genreverse YouTube channel. We're part of the Genreverse family. And we're also connected to lrmonline.com as well. And in both of those, you'll find a lot of entertainment news, trailers, reactions, reviews, that kind of content if you're into that sort of geek stuff. But today's all about football, or soccer as it's known in the States wrongly. It's just me and Ryan this week. The other two guys are not able to make it, unfortunately. And as always, producer Kale is here with us as well. So, as per usual, the first thing that we're going to do is start looking at our predictions table and how things have gone. Not too well, actually, as far as this weekend goes. But Ryan,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Things look on great the status of our lovely game.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I don't have the empirical evidence to back this up, but I do think it is the lowest scoring collective week we've had while we've been doing this. Kyle has made up quite a bit of ground on me. He's now probably within, a good week's worth of points from catching up to me.
He's within short sniffing distance.
He is, yeah, more on that later. But apart from that, it was a really, really low scoring week. Mick in particular only got 2, which is just a terrible, terrible effort. And it was a really easy week for me to update this week because everyone's positions remain the same and I didn't have to do any difficult maths. So,
nice.
Yeah. We've got.
I would have been in the same points as Mick if it was not for Chelsea, me getting the correct result in the Chelsea game. So
yeah,
basically, if he got the same one right as me, I would have been in 2 points as well. So
one thing that's kind of funny, and Ryan can verify this from last week, I was putting in my predictions when he started putting in your guys's. So I was making mine without seeing anyone else's. And
do you know what? I think that sort of harks back to when you were doing really well last season. Is you did your own research, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we just plucked numbers out of our ass, and that's how you had such a good time. What I would say, there is scope for these scores to improve because we predicted last week the Everton-Liverpool match, which, as you all know, is not due to happen until tomorrow night, Wednesday. But that is, everyone apart from me has gone for a Liverpool win there, so not a lot of scope for that to change, I don't think.
No, unless, Everton pull off a shock. I guess, they are in a bit of an upturn in form, but won again at the weekend. But still, they're also playing Liverpool. So, anyway, on to Team of the Week, shall we? And who we selected this week.
Again, this is
you and I that did this.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's mainly. Do we need the other two? We're the ones doing all the talking every week, anyway. Isn't it? Yeah. But we'll start with Dean Henderson in goal, because if I can't get any actual United players into the squad, I do like to try and get a former United player in there.
Is that why the Wan-Bissaka thing's been happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Palace beat United 2-0. I wouldn't say United created that many chances. The first shot on target wasn't until the second half. But Henderson sort of helped that by commanding his box. He made a couple of good saves, but also United, especially in the first half, kept winning corners and nothing came of them because I think he was quite strong in the box as well. And he kept a clean sheet. So I guess the only other candidate would be Jordan Pickford because he kept a clean sheet and he also punted one long at the start of the game to get a goal. But we'll go for Henderson.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll go for Henderson because we've got 2 Everton players in here. So We've gone a bit Troy Deeney or Garth Crooks. For right back, we've got Jed Spence in there, who one man of the match. Cam said he had a good game. He normally plays right back, but he was playing left back on the day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But yeah, he's stepped into Spurs and been quite good after a really sort of tough time at the start of his career there.
Spurs were that good, but they got the win, and he was the better player, one of the better players in the team. So
yeah,
there you
go. Moving on to centre backs, we got Calvin Bassey for Fulham. Now he narrowly missed out last week because Cam and Mick didn't feel that United did enough attacking for him to warrant a place. I think we didn't do enough. I think we didn't do enough attacking for him to warrant a place because he was snuffing everything out and basically keeping Højlund in his pocket, and he marched Højlund out of the game. He had another good game by all accounts against Newcastle.
Marking Højlund out of the game and Martin Isaac out.
Well, yeah, fine. But he had another good game against Newcastle in a 2-1 win.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of Fulham players in there. They beat us, but I think he felt like the one that kind of just stood out a little bit as it was always there, annoying us, getting in the way when we were trying to kind of set up any attack.
Whenever United have played against Fulham, I've got that idea. I've got that vibe from him that he's just a bit of a nuisance at the back, and
I liked him when he was a Rangers player as well. And
I never saw him at Rangers
up there, Big Shirley, but he did well in like the Europa League runs and that. They were on. So,
but yeah, he's a good player. And next to him is a guy who's in with a shout for team of the season is Murillo. Forest beat Brighton 7-0. I can't really remember too many Brighton attacks, but he's.
I think it's just whenever there was, he's in the way, and it's the way he brings it out as well. He'll bring the ball out and start attacks. He just never seems flustered, and he always seems to be involved and organised and everything.
We were obviously having.
He just signed in the summer, didn't he?
No. He signed last season, but he's very new. He'd only played about 20 games in Brazil before Forest picked him up.
Watch him, because he looks a real player.
Yeah. I mean, we had quite a heated discussion along these lines on Saturday, didn't we, in the group chat, which we won't go into here. But he is definitely a player I'd love to have at United. Murillo. He would work really well in our backline. I think it would offer us a lot.
Yeah, I think they'll struggle because he's young as well. I think they'll struggle to keep
they have just extended his contract, but we'll see. I mean,
they're playing. I think he deserves to be on more money.
He'll probably stay there next season, have the Champions League run, and then probably revisit it. I guess once
if they get Champions League, which they might. I think it's getting closer every week. But will he stay? I don't know. It depends who comes in for him and how much. Forest would want a pretty penny, and it's whether somebody would be willing to spend that. It's more likely he needs to stay there and run down his contract a little bit to reduce that value before he can move
on. And then left back, we've got Miles Lewis-Skelly for Arsenal, who came back from being wrongly sent off last week against Wolves, had his red card and suspension overturned, scored a screamer to put them, was it 2-1 or 3-1 up? It was 3-1, wasn't it, that one? Which basically put the game to bed, and then he was bantering Erling Haaland the rest of the game, which is great to see.
The second goal was Partey's deflection, because at that point I didn't think City were out it, because I thought I was a bit lucky, but once Haz went in, you thought this is done.
I said in the chat, didn't I, because Arsenal started really, really well, and then Havertz had that chance that he just, like, dictionary definition of bottling it, and it was City are going to get back into this and probably win it, and Arsenal are going to miss the chance again, and obviously they did get back into it, but then Arsenal turned it on again. So it's a fair play. And then moving up into midfield, we've got Declan Rice in there as well, who, when Arsenal play well, it's because Declan Rice is playing well. I think he's one of their best players. He just runs things from midfield when he's on it. We've got another former United player in the midfield, who's James Garner, who has been injured recently, but he's come back and he was just really good for Everton. He played a brilliant through ball for Beto early on, where he was going to try and, he almost won a penalty but didn't quite, and then a bit later he played the same through ball and he just threaded the needle perfectly for Beto to run onto and score. Was really good creative presence in that midfield for them, and a big part of why they won 4-0. And then moving up is Morgan Gibbs-White, who just ran things for Forest against Brighton. He was everywhere, got a goal.
He's been one of their best players of the season, and
absolutely.
one of the general best players in the Premier League this season. He seems to have took a step up.
Yeah,
I wonder whether the England caps have helped with that.
I think
kind of helped
as well. He's a proper box-to-box midfielder, isn't he? He gets stuck in, and then when he gets on the ball, he's got real quality to do something with it, and especially where Forest play, they play in a way that leaves a lot of space in behind for their forwards, and Gibbs-White being able to be back, win the ball, and then get it upfield in a really good way is really working for him there. So another cap for him. Mo Salah, we'll go into more detail on Liverpool's result against Bournemouth later, I guess, but Salah was the difference in that match. He scored a penalty, and then he capitalised on a Forest mistake, on a Bournemouth mistake even, and curled a really nice one into the top corner with as little fuss as you could possibly do for that sort of goal, I think. And that sort of summed Liverpool up. They just did it with no fuss, really. On the other wing, we got Anthony Elanga.
Troy Deeney move.
Yeah.
Because he played in the right, but...
Yeah, well, I think he almost played in the front too with Chris Wood, didn't he? But we've put him on the other wing. Again, another former United player. We got 3 caps in this week.
The way you said that, it was almost like a sigh in your voice. No. I've got realization come on to you that these players that used to play for you are actually quite good. No,
I mean, at the time they all left, they weren't good enough for United, and yeah,
fair enough.
Certainly, Elanga looked good in praises, but I was quite happy to get 15 million for him at the time, and he's grown, having played a couple of full seasons for Forest, but he wouldn't have grown that way at United.
Anthony's wages, that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was right to let go of him at the time, and I don't think really he'd have a place in our team the way we play at the minute either.
Did you see Anthony got man of the match in his first game?
I did. Yeah.
Was it?
Sadly, La Liga players aren't eligible for our team of the week. But yeah, Elanga got 3 assists for Chris Wood, or was it 2 assists for Chris Wood and another? He got 3 assists in the match, which is.
Did he score as well? I think he scored as well.
He might have scored as well.
I thought he was the best player.
And he was taking the piss at the end. I remember.
White.
Yeah, I remember in stoppage time, Forest broke again, and this was at 7-0, and it didn't quite work out for him because it was Elanga who got in, and he was just sort of taking the piss with the Brighton defenders, taking the piss with the crowd, just going, "Oh yeah, this is easy, this football arc," and yeah, a lot of piss taking, I think, in the games this weekend. And then Beto up front, who had 2 really well taken goals, I thought, for Everton. Yeah. And led the line quite well because
obviously there was some competition for the centre forward place this week, but we felt Beto deserved to get in. Another Everton player deserved to get in, because we already had 3 Nottingham Forest players in.
So Chris Wood scored a hat trick, but it was a hat trick of 2 tap-ins and a penalty, which they all count, but it's not we scored a hat trick, let's get him in sort of. Yeah. But he's having a great season as well, Chris Wood, and he probably could do with a few more caps in this team, which I'm sure he'll get before the end of the season. But yeah, it's
a tough one though to get in that centre forward position though. That's the
thing. But yeah, that's our team of the week for this season. For this week even.
And some names that we've not kind of had in before as well. It's kind of, there is a few teams that have had a bit of a turnaround. Everton certainly. Since Moyes came in, they have been a different team, and a lot of Everton fans are saying, like, whenever they said, "Oh, you shouldn't sack Dyche, it's a mistake, you could get relegated."
I don't think anybody was saying that. Even Sean Dyche was saying, "I've done as much as I can, get rid of me and get someone else in."
I mean, he kind of was at the end. I mean, a couple of weeks to go, he kind of was. Yeah. But up to that point, the media were saying, "Oh, Sean Dyche's a good manager," blah blah. The usual crap that you get from the pundits. And now Everton fans are like saying, "Look at our results." Since
I mean,
come in. They've gone from to get rid of him.
They've gone from getting no goals in like 8 of their last 9 games under Dyche to scoring 4 goals against Spurs and then 4 goals against Leicester, which
not bad, is it?
Yeah,
and you can see the shackles are kind of off. They are prepared to try and attack.
And they've signed.
They've
signed a couple of attacking players as well. They've signed Carlos Alcaraz, who was at Southampton a year or 2 ago, and he's sort of been around the houses a bit to a couple of bigger clubs and not quite broken through. But he's got something in him on his day, which is interesting.
Yeah. At this point, they'll be absolutely fine. I mean, we'll get to the relegation fight in a little bit, but I guess before we go on to that, we'll just look at the 2 big games of the weekend, which were Liverpool were playing Bournemouth and Arsenal were playing Man City. Both Liverpool and Arsenal really kind of on their own, challenging for the title at the moment, and very tough fixtures to come up against. Bournemouth have been on a run of beating every informed team well. And Liverpool end up winning the game 2-0, and it almost feels like, it's just there's levels to this thing, what I mean? And that's just another level for Bournemouth. But you watched the game, didn't you? And
I did. Yeah,
and Bournemouth played quite well. It wasn't
it was a really close game, and what I said in the chat is I think sums it up. A lot of people, when you see a team where everyone goes, oh yeah, they're going to win the title, and they say, oh yeah, that sort of performance, that sort of win is what makes a title challenge, and they usually use it for a game where a team gets absolutely battered and they pull it out the fire last minute.
Yeah.
These are the games that make title challenges, where Bournemouth started really well, started really brightly, were dangerous and looked like they could hurt Liverpool, and Liverpool just didn't give a shit. They just played their game, calmly scored 2 goals. Both their goals came off the back of a mistake from Bournemouth, where Bournemouth should have scored, and it's just that routine, I don't care how good you are, we're better sort of performance. Yeah, exactly.
Ruthlessness. Give them a sniff and they will take that chance.
What I would say is the penalty to put Liverpool 1-0 up. I don't agree with it. I don't know if you saw it much on Match of the Day. There's contact, but it's just contact of 2 legs happening to be in the same place at the same time. There's no foul. There's no intent from Cook to get anywhere near Cody. He's just running to chase the ball, and he happens to brush him.
The only thing I would say is, imagine yourself in gate post position. You're running through in goals. You're maybe lining up a left foot shot, and next minute you're on your face.
Doesn't mean it's a foul.
So for his point of view, it's a foul because he could have scored the goal there. I think it's harsh, but
it's not an intentional action.
It's contact there. So
it's not even an intentional action. It's just like a coincidence of physics.
Does
basically.
A foul have to be intentional, though? I mean, most of the time when I have fouled people in my life playing football, it's been accidental, but I fouled them anyway.
But it has to be an intentional action. If you're going for the ball and you miss the ball and you get your man, fine, you're not aiming for the man, but you don't tackle him properly. Yeah? If you're just running and your feet happen to click, that's not an intentional action. That's just your feet both being in the same place at the same time.
I don't know. It's one of those ones where I think you could genuinely debate that all day and come up with I've said this in points of view.
I've said this in the past. In the past, I think, especially with penalties at the minute, where the XG on a penalty and the percentage of penalties that get scored is so high, the bar really needs to be raised for what is a penalty, and just minimal contact in a massive area of the pitch shouldn't be enough to give you a free shot at goal.
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever fully agreed with you in this, simply because I think the art of defence is to push the rules to their absolute maximum, and what you might think is a raising of the bar, they will take to whatever the maximum level of that is, and if there's a loophole, they'll find it. That's what defenders do. And I think sometimes we're at risk of then there's no goals, because it's not just the action of the penalty, it's the other things they're able to then do to the attacking players
Yeah.
to stop them from scoring that you're then giving up on. And most people would argue more goals is good for football. So I don't know if I agree with you on that, but I kind of see what you mean, that sometimes there's the odd penalty that can bite. You just think, yeah, that wouldn't have been given back today. Kind of deal. So, so Liverpool very strong.
Well, just very, very comfortable. I think it wasn't. It was just.
Yeah, but I just mean.
Yeah, I mean they look good.
They
don't look like they're going to have a wobble, do they? They had a brief wobble, and that was what, a couple of draws and a first leg loss to Spurs in a cup that's.
And that was quite a congested fixture period as well. Obviously, they've got more fixtures coming up, but they at least don't have the playoffs and the Champions League to worry about.
They do have. Trent went off with an injury, didn't he? I haven't seen anything about how bad that was. He went off. But then they've got Conor Bradley.
Not bother them that much. Bring Bradley in.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe to win the Champions League or something like that. But I don't know how long term it would be if he's. But I imagine it's not too bad. It looks like it would have been in the news today that if it was a long term one,
Yeah, it looks like it's just a knock. So I don't think he's going to be out
Alicia,
for any length of time.
You knew he was out for a while within a day of the game. So
exactly. Yeah. And then Arsenal obviously, they we said last week, didn't we, that they will never have a better chance of really sort of rubbing it into City, and to be fair to them, they took it. It's probably not the season that they would have hoped to have beaten City 5-1 in, but all the same, they did what they needed to do, and they really, I think there was a lot of pent up emotion released in that because they were just constantly giving City stick during the game, after the game.
Well, I think they set up for one of those boring draws where, like you said, and that's where I think maybe they won't quite win the league this year, is that they were kind of more worried about what would happen to them. But once the third goal went in, once Lewis Skelly gets that third goal, they relaxed. And they thought, let's get a couple more here, because they didn't feel like just one mistake would cost them.
I think as well, when they opened up. They saw City's heads drop, and they thought, we can do something special here. And and Rich, if you're still watching, we're finally giving Arsenal credit because they were excellent. I thought,
I think it was good for Havertz to get a goal, but I think the pressure was off when he took it. But that would be my one concern still with Arsenal is at the start of the game, Havertz looked as if whenever it went to him, he's like, please let me pass it to someone else.
That's what he did for the first goal, didn't he?
It was what he did for the first goal, but
the ball came straight through and he squared it for Odegaard. That chance afterwards is, I mean, it's obviously it's a very different scenario, but it is like me when I'm playing my football on a Monday night. Is I know I'm not really good on the ball, and I have to be really confident to take a shot. I would rather square it to somebody else and let them do the thing a lot of the time. That was what Havertz was doing. Yeah,
if you're playing as the main striker for Arsenal,
I pay money to play. I don't get paid to play. So yeah,
exactly. Very different circumstances. We don't expect you to be any amateur player to be a mentality monster. That's why we're amateurs. But I think he needs to focus on that, because although he probably isn't a out and out striker, they need him to score goals, and if he's going to get chances like that,
I mean, he has scored a decent amount, but he's just it's just he's got some high profile misses to him that he sort of gets blamed for, and
that's what it is.
It costs him, but I think it also gets back to him. I think it gets back to him, and that's where his confidence isn't quite there. Well, you look at an Isak, or you look at a Haaland, and as soon as they get the ball in the box, they're taking a shot and they're expecting it to go in, and there just isn't that.
There's a confidence thing in that.
There's not that instinctiveness with Havertz. I think I don't think there's that because he's such a thoughtful player in other areas of the pitch, where he's a midfielder before, obviously.
I don't think he's
there's
quite
not
an
that
out-and-out striker.
There's not that killer instinct in
He's
him.
a scorer of great goals.
Yeah.
He's not a great goal scorer. You go back to the old Andy Gray argument for many years ago. Like Isaac, Haaland, they're just goal machines in some ways. And he's not quite that, but he's a very good player. But sometimes his confidence just feels a bit short this season.
Yeah.
They are pulling away Arsenal and Liverpool, but you just can't. Anybody thinks Arsenal's really going to catch them.
Yeah, I mean,
if they win their game in hand, it's 9 points.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that's going to make this interesting is an Everton win tomorrow. If Liverpool win that, then
6 points.
That's it.
That would be, doable. That's because they've still to play each other. And that's the jeopardy in that. You then get it down to 3 points. But...
Yeah, so they've got Everton at home. They're at Goodison. They're away to Everton on the 12th of February, which I think is possibly a bigger one because Everton really bloodied their nose at Goodison Park last season, didn't they? And then the end of February they've got City away on the 23rd, which, in the way City are at the minute, they will probably just wipe the floor with them. And then they've got Newcastle a few days after that, which, depending on which Newcastle turn up, could do something.
Ours or theirs?
No, it's at Anfield.
It doesn't matter. We never. They are our bogey team. The best we ever get is a draw at St James's Park. They always beat us at Anfield, so it's practically the 3 points you could guarantee at the start of the season. We won't get anything.
They don't play Arsenal. They don't play Arsenal until the 10th of May. So 3 games from the end. So
it Arsenal, could be more interesting by then,
and they play Chelsea the week before. So if Arsenal can keep it to 6 points going into that, you never know. But then it's going to take a lot for Arsenal just to keep up until then. And then Liverpool could just win it that day.
That's the thing. You get the feeling Arsenal will drop points before Liverpool in most games. That's and could be wrong. Arsenal could turn it around. Anything can happen from this point on. Liverpool could hit a wobble, or they could get some injuries, which might hurt them or something like that. But I also think they've got the strongest sort of squad of youth or kids ready to come in. Arsenal have got some good ones as well, as shown recently, but I just don't think they've quite got the squad.
Well, they've got a little Saka regen, haven't they, in one area? He's just
doing him. He's a good player. But,
he's doing the same stuff Saka was doing, definitely.
Yeah, not quite to the same level, I don't think. But he's got a good team round about him as well. Yeah. So that's a title race for the moment, and everybody else probably through to 10th place in the table is fighting for European positions. That's how tight it is, and really anybody could get into there from there. I would like to predict who will finish Champions League, who will be in Europa places, who will be in the Conference League places.
Yeah,
I mean, switched around several times before.
I mean, you go down to 12th. Palace are on 30 points, 10 points behind Bournemouth in 7th. So, and United are only a point behind that, but I don't expect us to climb up the table. We'll go into that in a minute. So, I mean, even down to Palace, you could look at a Conference League spot for any of those teams. It's a couple of clubs are being helped by Spurs and United having really bad season, because there's going to be a couple of new clubs in the European spots by definition. Yeah,
available for people that maybe they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Talking of which, Spurs did actually manage to get the victory at the weekend, but you managed to lose another game. And I think it is fair that I'm seeing media-wise, like, famously United. I think there was a lot of United fans that to begin with were a bit like you were saying, this season's already a write-off, let's just try and get the team playing better. But now I'm starting to see, especially after the game at the weekend, a difference or a shift, and that some people are thinking, I don't know if I like Amarim or what he's about after all. And I think what brought that home to people is the fact that he seems to have the whole playing Manu as the false 9, which the average man in the stands at Old Trafford's going, nah, that's can't be right. This is stupid. Why are you doing this?
think he is starting to be questioned because the accepted wisdom was, look, he's trying to implement his ideas on the players that he's got to see who he can keep, in the knowledge that not everyone is suited to that system. So there's been a bit of patience with him that way. He has made a couple of weird decisions, like in the game against you guys last month, where he started with Eriksen and Casemiro, which just anyone could tell you was an awful idea.
When you think back, he's not played them since together.
No, they haven't got a look in. I don't think. Well, Eriksen's had a few appearances off the bench and he's done all right, but I don't think Casemiro's had any minutes since then, to be honest. And I think, you know, we were actively trying to get him out to Saudi during the transfer window, but it didn't happen. The Mainu thing, on paper, I can see the thinking because he played in one of the 10 roles in Europe and he looked good there. Clearly, there's different issues with Xerxes and Højlund, but neither of them are working well. The way I thought it was going to work was you'd almost have like a midfield three of Ugarte, Bruno, and Mainu.
And then the wide players pushing up, maybe.
And Mainu, because he's so good in tight spaces, you could play the ball into him, he'd look after it, and then Ahmad and Garnacho could run off him and he could play them in. But it just, Palace didn't offer that space because they're a deep team.
Just didn't seem to, because he's not an attacker, he just didn't seem to know where to run. You know, he was always
he wasn't making a striker's run. He was being a midfielder playing high up the pitch, which he is really good at. But he doesn't make a striker's run, where Garnacho is being more of a wide player and actually is trying to get balls into the box. We didn't have him there to get on the end of them, and like I said, Palace didn't offer any space to run in behind. But what I would say is the first 10-15 minutes of the game, it did look like it might actually work because we were playing lots of intricate moves. We were really sort of threatening, we were getting in behind, we were winning corners, but ultimately there just wasn't the cutting edge to put the ball in the net. And from there, you know, Palace get a bit of a fluky goal that, you know, they had a free kick 40 yards out that Eze puts in, centre back heads it against the bar, and it loops up and Mateta tucks it away. And from there, the heads just drop in, and Palace, they've got a 1-0 lead. I know Oliver Glasner's got slightly more progressive ideas, but that Palace team is hardwired to, if they've got a 1-0 lead, especially at Old Trafford, just sit back and not offer them anything. And we didn't really have any way of unpicking them. He brought on Xerxes and Højlund at the same time, and I think they should have been, you know, they should play more together because they've each got what the other one lacks. Xerxes got really good hold up play. You know, you can lump the ball to him, it will stick to him, he can play someone in, but he doesn't get in the box and get on the end of something. Whereas Højlund, if you try and use Højlund as a hold-up striker, he gets too invested in wrestling with the defenders and forgets that the ball's got to come to him. So I thought, you know, it could almost be sort of, they're both quite big guys, but, you know, a proper sort of little man, big man partnership up there. And then you could have a midfield three with just a bit more security. But that needs practice.
There is that worry as well. You know, obviously the Rashford thing happened. It seems to want Casemiro out. So Rashford's went to Villa on loan, which doesn't really help you out that much financially. You get some wages off the book for 6 months, you know, kind of deal with that.
I mean, it's quite a hefty amount. Villa are paying 75% up front.
Yeah,
and then that could rise to 90.
Contract.
And we basically set a price on him of £40 million. Villa can have him for £40 million if they want, and if he wants to go there. But it does sort of help that. I think with Casemiro as well. We've been saying
you maybe looking to bring somebody in with whatever that money is left, though, because it does leave you quite short.
What's been quite heavily briefed today is obviously there's been quite a bit of outcry that we've not brought another forward in. There was talk of bringing in Mathis Tel, who I don't think would have really fixed any of the problems. He's gone to Spurs, but he's a 19-year-old kid who's had a couple of years at Bayern, hasn't scored at all this season. He's not going to magically come in and fix our problem.
No, you're right. Yeah.
He's not. And Spurs have paid a €10 million loan fee, and then they've got an obligation to buy him for 55 million afterwards, which just blows our entire budget on another player that's not really likely to improve our team. So I think we've done well to swerve that, but we really should have had something else lined up. There was talk about Nicholas Nkunku. I think he really would have suited that role well, but that didn't happen.
I think Chelsea would have let him go as well, so it's a strange one.
João Felix
I wonder if it was tied to the Garnacho thing, though.
Yeah, João Felix went to Milan on loan from Chelsea. I think we could have done something with him. For 4 months, absolutely. But basically, the briefings that have gone out is that we've kept our powder dry in January. We've not brought in a forward for the sake of bringing in a forward and spending loads of money, and it will basically preserve the transfer budget for the summer when we can properly do the surgery. And then the main talk is we're going to get Quenda from Sporting, who's the right wing back, who's basically Amorim's prodigy, and a big striker move, which you think is probably Victor Gyökeres or it's Victor Osimhen. We'll see.
Gyökeres would obviously make a lot of sense with the Amorim connection, but at the same time, he's a guy that wants to be playing Champions League football, and you're not going to be anywhere near Champions League next year unless you win the Europa League this year. And the way you're playing at the moment, and the fact that nobody's going to come out the woodwork, and suddenly appear in the team in a different way. I do feel that you're in a position now where you're going to win one week, lose the next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't see you doing much in Europe as a result.
I think a lot of what I say about United is about this sort of thing, and then a lot of what we were saying on Saturday about the respective qualities of the Forest squad and the United squad is Forest got battered 5-0 by Bournemouth last week, and yes, it raised some eyebrows, but realistically, no one gave a shit. There was no is it all over for Forest, crisis at Forest, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then they came back and didn't give a shit and beat Brighton 7-0. United showed a lot of good stuff against Palace, but they couldn't get the job done. But it was added on to, it's another disaster for United, and it's look at what Amorim's doing with his false nine Mainu, and it's
I guess the amount of noise is the hardest thing.
It is, to get but the amount of noise anytime anything happens with United, it really stymies progress. And the fact that we've not spent big in January to go, actually, there's not a lot we can really achieve this summer. Let's get our ducks in the row so we can have a proper go of it. There's not a lot we can achieve this season. Let's get our ducks in the row so we can have a proper go of it in the summer. The worry is that things are so low then by the summer with the players and with Amorim as well, because you just hovering around that. Yeah, but it is third. I've been saying for 18 months now, there is a process to getting us back to the top, and that process is going to involve a lot of inconsistency, a lot of bad results, and a lot of just stopping acting like we're a Champions League club. That's why we're in this position, is because we've been pretending we're a Champions League club, even though we're only ever in there once every 3 seasons, basically. So the budget's been that of a Champions League club, but the income hasn't been, and the work behind the scenes hasn't been geared towards that. So we do need to build from the ground up. Forward, in order to guarantee that and this applies to all the clubs, we're not just Man United, but unless you are a title challenger, which at the moment is probably Arsenal and Liverpool this year, but consistently over the years, you'd probably say Liverpool, City and Arsenal, those three. No one else, unless you're in that bracket, you're not guaranteed Champions League football. No one is, because that has changed a lot recently. That has changed a lot recently, but we've been behaving like a perennial Champions League club, and that's finally, we've run out of the money, we've run out of the credit, and we're just going to have to cut our cloth, and it's going to be grim for a couple of years. But you'd hope that there's the foundation there, and the patience with Amorim is fine. We can't give you the tools we need now, but you get through this period with us, and we'll be able to give you them in the future. But what it needs is a bit like Liverpool almost before Klopp came in. Is it needs us to be that far off it that people stop paying attention, and it stops being a story when United aren't winning games. That's how we progress,
I don't think I just don't think that'll ever
No,
happen.
I don't
It's
either.
a
But that
story when
is
any Premier League team are consistently losing, but when it's Man United or Liverpool, or it's big news. It always will be. The thing I think is right. We've had quite a few managerial changes this year, and not all of them have resulted in a turn of fortune, but some of them have.
I mean,
But
I think the only one that's really
difficult to
worked
look
is
at
Moyes at
Amarim and
Everton.
Well, I don't know. Wolves are getting themselves out now. I mean, it's
Yeah, but
took
they're
a
still-
while, but they've got a couple of results consistently.
Yeah.
I would say definitely Van Nistelrooy hasn't worked at
No.
Leicester
And I
in
said-
any way whatsoever.
I said that at the time as well. Everyone was quite excited by that, and I was just like, no, he didn't show anything tactically in his interim job at United.
Yeah.
He just sort of he just buoyed the team up for a week or two,
I think
and
West
he's
Ham
not
have
going to give everyone a
improved
boot
under,
up the arse. Yeah, okay, yeah. West Ham have got better under
what's
Potter.
his name
Yeah.
as well. But I think you look at Man United, and I can't say, like as a neutral, I can't say Man United have improved under Amarim, because actually I think Ten Hag had slightly better record by that point where we're slagging him off.
I think it's about
very strange.
It's about what you view as progress. So my main issue with Ten Hag is that he prioritised the results over the process a bit too much. He sacrificed trying to build anything just to get through the next game quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and as a result, there was no real tactical plan at the end of it. The results have got worse under Amarim, but what I would say is we look much more like we want to be a possession-based team, even if we don't quite know what to do with the ball when we keep it at the minute. We look much more like that. And you can, against Palace, even against Fulham, against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday, you could see what he wants the team to look like. Just the players aren't quite switched onto it yet. So I can see what it's going to look like, and when it works, I think it's going to look good. I look at the game where we beat City. We beat City a couple of times under Ten Hag. Yeah, we beat City a couple of times under Ten Hag, but they were sit back, soak up the pressure, hit them on the break, don't do anything, and there's nothing that you can build on from there. Whereas this season under Amarim, when we beat City, we really took the game to them from the first whistle, and we raised our game a lot because it was a City match, and the same against Liverpool and Arsenal, but we wanted to play them. And if we can get that and we can translate it to go into playing Palace or playing Brighton and going, we're going to play you and we're going to beat you off the park because we're a better team, we're going to suffer through some inconsistent results while it comes together, but I do think there is a plan there, even if the results aren't there.
I just get a funny feeling it's not going to work out.
Yeah,
well
I mean,
for you, but
it won't.
you'll hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, we've seen it. How
because they don't like you.
How many times have I said this? How many times have we seen it? It won't work until it does.
Yeah, I know. We'll just have to wait and see.
What I do think
it's probably too early.
What I do think is needed is we play Leicester in the Cup on Friday. We should win that. And then we've got like 8 or 9 games until we play Spurs the following weekend, and that's the longest break that Ruben will have had. He needs to go take him somewhere warm and do a warm weather boot camp with him. Just get everyone's spirits up, really start drilling them, a bit like Arsenal did last season.
Don't know if you guys can afford that, right?
Yeah, true.
Jim would have to pay for that.
He would.
But
I think I think that's what's needed, just to try and focus everyone for the end of the season, just to at least, even if we just do enough in the league, but really go for it in the cups.
For us, I've always felt when we do these warm weather retreats, they come back a bit, infused and stuff like that. I don't know if we've got one planned this year.
I haven't heard any rumblings of it from United, but I do think it's something that really they ought to look at.
Maybe the fixtures don't work out quite the same way this year or something. I don't know how it works out, but. Well, we get beat this weekend as well, so I guess I did a wee short on my kind of thoughts on the game itself. I thought the referee had an absolute nightmare, but I think the better team won on the day, and that's disappointing. And I think when you look at where we are, we were in a really good position in the league, but we've got some really big games coming up. We play Manchester City, which is a 6-pointer. We're on exactly the same points as them. they've just lost 5-1 to Arsenal. We're going to theirs, next Premier League fixtures, which is in 2 weeks. That's a rough one. I just can't see us getting anything from that. That puts them ahead of us. And then the week after that, we've got Nottingham Forest, all right, at ours. And we've beat them at ours already in the Cup this year, but that was before they went in this run. And then we've got Liverpool away after that. And you just think by that point, we could be out the European places, and that's just how it goes. It just depends on the fixtures you're playing and who you're playing. Last time I said this though, was when we went in a great run and we started getting some great results against some of these big teams. And it wasn't, we beat Arsenal, all sorts of stuff. So I don't know, but I really worry about us in terms of just our squad depth. That's another 2 players away this window. We're not like you guys. We do have the cash to spend them, but we're not allowed to in terms of what our current outlays are and everything like that. So we're doing the same thing. We're selling players now, when we can get money for them, so that we can have a bit of money to spend in the summer. But you do feel that there's the chance of your season just drifting away. And if we fail to get Europe again, even like Europa League or Conference, then you start to think, well, maybe we will lose one of the bigger players, and it won't be because we can't afford to keep them because we've done our PSR stuff to keep them. It'll be because they turn around and go, actually, I want to play in Europe, and that's a couple of years in a row that we haven't done that now. So I think we're playing quite a risky game, but I think it's the only game that we can play, so we'll just have to wait and see. Hoping Forest take a tumble at some point, to be perfectly honest with you. Hoping Chelsea stay as inconsistent as we've been. Bournemouth can maybe find a bit of inconsistency around about us as well, and Man City don't pick up pace, and really that's all you can do. Hope Aston Villa don't go on a great run and Marcus Rashford starts banging in three every game for them, but I don't think that'll happen, but we'll see.
I mean, I think
funny one, but we have got a big game tomorrow as well in the Cup. So I
think City have rescued things slightly from where it was in November and December, but they are still very much, they'll win one game.
Last year.
No, they'll win one game, they'll lose the next, and anyone with any sort of quality can get something out of them for sure. So I think it is about hoping Forest and Chelsea fall off, and I don't see it happening to Forest because of how defensively solid they are. That's where they built it from. And they don't have to do anything other than keep it tight defensively now for the rest of the season, I don't think. And they haven't got Europe to worry about or anything like that. Chelsea, I think that's probably the opportunity, but then it's also looking like 5th is going to be good enough for Champions League. So I would be very surprised if Newcastle weren't in Europe in some description by the end of the season. I think, Bournemouth might go past you might end up Conference League, but other than that, Villa will be focused on the Champions League knockouts, and if they get battered first round, then maybe they'll refocus in the league. But I think you'll be all right.
We kind of already talked about the relegation fight, but one of the things that you and I have been, and we'll just quickly go over this, is that it does look again like last season as if the 3 promoted teams are just not quite able to just physically get enough points to even think about mounting a challenge to stay in the league. Rest of the teams round about them, you just don't see going down. You really don't. Yeah,
and you think how bad Burnley and Sheffield United were, in particular last season. Southampton are worse, and fine, they got their win against Ipswich, which
we predicted it as well. I said if this happens, then
so they'll probably probably now be safe from beating Derby's record of 11 points.
But it means Ipswich are now 2 points behind. I think it is
3.
Wolves,
no, it's 3 points behind Wolves. But they just don't look good, and
see them getting many points.
And the two best teams in the Championship this season, Burnley and Leeds, by all accounts, played an absolute stinker of a game the other night. I think Leeds' official Twitter account posted the match highlights, and it was the kickoff, and it was a goal kick from the keeper for full time, and that was the match highlights video.
One thing I'll say is again, I'm anti-PSR, always have been. I think it's stifling the Premier League, and it also means that when teams come up, they cannot take a risk. Even if an owner goes, I'm going to pump some money in here to try and stay up, we're not seeing that happening. We haven't seen that really since Forest, and they got actually punished with points deductions for doing it, but it kind of worked for them. But
if it happens this season and then next season the teams come up and they don't look competitive at all, I think that's when it starts becoming a problem. I don't think, last season was the first year in like 20 odd years where all 3 promoted teams had gone straight down.
I know, and
but it does
2 years isn't necessarily a pattern, but if it does go 3, I think you're right, then they need to look at that, because it's one of the attractions of the Premier League is that
what I would say is
of coming into the Premier League,
if you do manage
building your team.
If you do manage to stay up, there is upward mobility, because what have we been saying all season about the mid-table, and because Man United and Spurs aren't really on it this season, there's opportunity for teams to go above them, and fourth down to 12th is an absolute dogfight at the minute, and if you can get into that,
enough to just get into that, and I think
what happens is a lot of owners are like, we'll go up, we can spend a load of money in trying to get Premier League quality players, potentially scrape through.
A
lot of owners go up. Go up. They'll say, we'll take the year of Premier League money and then we'll reinvest for a really good championship squad
to try and come back up again.
And
it's almost like you need to yo-yo for a few years before somebody will finally take the jump. But we've seen that with Burnley, and I don't know.
Well, I think what it is
getting better as the Championship maybe down a level. They're not spending as much as they used to at Championship.
And I think there's a lot of talent drain from the Championship as well. There's a lot of clubs that are buying early from the Championship now because it's cheaper than buying from abroad and buying established stars. So there's that
rather
quality.
Than letting them build up and then saying you can just go in and buy them because you've got more money.
Some of the clubs that have made a success of going up, apart from like your traditional big clubs who've sort of spent a year in the Championship that they shouldn't have done, like a Fulham or a Villa or a Newcastle. Some of the clubs who've come up and established themselves have really slowly built in the Championship, and they might have come close a couple of times, but they've not quite gone up. And then when they do go up, they're ready. So you think Brentford, they had a couple of bites at it before they went up. Brighton were the same. Bournemouth, I think, were similar as well. So I don't know if there's something to be said for that, where they can really sort of build up. Ipswich got back-to-back promotions. They're way out of their depth, and the fact that they've got 16 points, I think, is a miracle, considering half that squad was playing in League One 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I guess when you look at it that way, you can see it. But Ipswich, there is that history there. They have been a Premier League club in the past.
Not for ages.
Not for a while. No,
I wasn't watching football the last time they were in the Premier League.
They were a bigger team. They were a regular first division team. But that's life. So were a load of other teams that are now in the Championship.
United used to be good as well.
All the Premier League teams. I mean, but when you look at the teams we have got in the Premier League, Bournemouth, Brentford. It almost feels like they get in at the right time, Ryan. Do you know what I mean? And now they're in there, they're kind of secure.
Yeah, but they built up to it. That's the thing,
They still had to have that first year when they stayed up. Though.
Yeah, but they built up to the actual promotion itself. It was.
Do you think Sky as well? Like, see when you look at the deadline day and that, I know City spent quite a bit of money, but they haven't really spent much in the last couple of windows. But really, there wasn't a lot of deals. There wasn't a lot of money. They say there's more money spent each one. But actually, you get that feeling that no one was really moving in the window apart from sales.
I think there's more money spent.
City and Villa.
There's more money spent, but I think it's spread across a lot of players, and that's why I
mean, City got 4
you can
players,
say
Villa
like
2. So,
Ipswich spent £130 million in the summer, but that was on half a squad. They didn't go out. There's no massive deals coming into the Premier League apart from obviously City spent some quite big fees. But then Villa,
ultimately, the way they build up deadline day, and now nothing happens.
What I would say is Villa would be a lot higher on that table if loan fees and all that were taken into consideration, they only count transfer fees, but the amount Villa have spent on loans that could potentially be options, they've been quite busy actually.
I think it's a bit of a gamble for Villa. I think they know that they're not quite. I think the Sailor Duran allows them to do a couple of other things, but I think they also know that they're not quite what they were last year, and that there's a chance they won't get Champions League again.
No, but I think as well they've got players with experience of going deep in tournaments now. I know, for all you might say about Rashford is he's won a European trophy. He's gone deep into a tournament with England. Marco Asensio has been there and done it all in football as well.
Yeah.
So that will help them because it's quite a young squad, and it's a squad that's really not accustomed to being at that level. So that will help them, I think.
Oh, well, we do have one last thing that we thought we would discuss this week, which is I think it was you that posted it, but David meant to post it anyway. This was a scene from the Chelsea game, so Kyle will bring up the images for this, and I think it beggars belief, but we see Enzo taking off his shorts was this I don't know if this was at the end of the game. Anyway, he throws his shorts into the crowd, and we see one of the Chelsea fans picking them up and sniffing the shorts.
Yeah. I mean, it worked for Jurgen Löw, and he won a World Cup, but I don't really know what's going on there. It's a bit odd.
I think but we should be across the internet naming and shaming this. Well, we don't know his name, but at least getting his image out there so that when he's older and his kids are looking on the internet, they'll be known as the kids of that guy that sniffed Enzo's dirty shorts.
I mean, it was last weekend. A lot was made of it being the 30th anniversary of Eric Cantona kicking a fan in the crowd. And a lot was going on. A lot was said about the fan who got kicked. I don't know if this guy's going to be similarly infamous in 30 years' time. You never know.
Well, I mean, I would be all for Eric kicking him. After doing that. I think Eric might take offence to that, but that's just me. Each to their own. I say, but bit weird. That's I wouldn't call it shit house of the week. It's more like shit sniffer of the week, really. But hey, that's how it is. Football. It's a funny old game, Saints. It's a funny old game. But that's us for this week, guys. Remember. While you're on here, check out the main Genreverse YouTube channel. You'll find a lot of content on there that you might like, which is completely different from this, and our complete backlog is on there as well. Brand new Fantastic Four trailer out today if anybody wants it. We've got it on lrmonline.com. We've got new posters and that. Go and check that out as well if you want to see that and what I thought of it. Other than that, we will be back next week. I don't know how many of us there will be. Dave is going to be a father soon, and there are just some things that are more important at the moment. I think Mick was just busy this week, so no.
He's going out and watching an actual football game. Imagine, He's been like me. He's missed the podcast for going and watching some non-league, which fair play.
Yeah, fair play. Yes, going with the family, so these things happen. But so we'll see you all next week, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Let's hope Newcastle get through in the cup.
Yeah. And United too.
Bye.